become the CEO of your own medical health. I always say become like the CEO of your own sex life. Like you guys got to figure it out because it's so different. It's so bio-individual. On this show, I try to give people, like, I'm not prescriptive. I'm not telling you guys to go out and do any one thing. I'm just trying to give you the information so you can make better choices for your overall health and wellness. You're listening to Sex with Emily. I'm Dr. Emily, and I'm here to help you prioritize your pleasure and liberate the conversation around sex. On today's episode, you'll learn what low libido, keeping the spark alive, erectile challenges, and gut issues all have in common. Now, this is a buzzy topic that is more than just a headline, because here's the facts. Our gut health influences our sexual health. In this episode, you'll learn what you can do to alleviate these symptoms by making small adjustments to your life where you'll see big results. Our guest today, Tina Anderson, has created a one-of-a-kind solution that I personally take and believe in. And I've seen the changes in myself and can't wait for you to get your cup filled with all the gut knowledge. Please rate and review Sex with Emily wherever you listen to the show. It totally helps us get the show out to more people, so just do it right now. Our new articles, 6 ways to use cannabis for sex, a guide, and 6 embarrassing sex questions you're afraid to ask are up on sexwithemily.com, so don't miss those. All right, everyone, enjoy this episode. By now, you've probably heard my magic wand story. It's a brand that's been part of my personal journey for more than 20 years. But no matter how many times I sing Magic Wand's praises, I'll never be able to fully capture the story of this incredible brand. Well, now journalist and author Kate Sloan just completed a limited audio series documenting the history and impact that Magic Wand has created over the last 56 years. It's called Making Magic. And the series chronicles Magic Wand's incredible brand story through interviews with nearly 40 experts, performers, business owners, educators, and fans. So I got a sneak preview of the series, and what I loved is that Kate weaves together snippets from all their interviews into this amazing story arc. She covers Magic Wand's journey from appliance store massager to its legendary influence on culture and sexual independence, and it's all just fascinating. The first episodes of Making Magic are available now at makingmagicseries.com or on all popular podcast platforms. Just search for Making Magic or visit makingmagicseries.com today. I asked my Sex with Emily audience their most embarrassing penis questions, and one that kept coming up was, how can I increase my ejaculation? Helped by the ever-growing popularity of the money shot in pornography, semen volume seems to be a conversation growing in popularity. So can you really increase your load? Well, the answer is yes. You've got to get your hands on Popstar's volume and taste enhancers. These supplements help build up semen and increase ejaculatory volume. Not to mention, there's an added bonus of improved semen taste. We've all heard that age-old rumor to eat pineapple to taste better. Well, this supplement actually uses the bromelain from pineapple along with zinc and L-arginine to improve your overall taste in 2 to 3 weeks. This product was created by 2 of the country's leading men's sexual health physicians, so you're in good hands. Popstar is all-natural, high-quality, vegan, and non-GMO, made from the best ingredients and scientifically proven to work. Plus, you know I've got you guys with a discount code. You can save 20% with code Emily at popstarlabs.com/Emily. That's popstarlabs.com/Emily. popstarlabs.com/Emily. Use code Emily at checkout. So I've been dabbling in this area after I learned that our hormones and gut biome each affect each other in a bi-directional system. So basically, they're constantly talking and affecting each other. And then I've heard from so many of you who have been having gut issues. And turns out 89% of Americans suffer from some gut issue, whether it's bloating, indigestion, or heartburn, reflux. Oh, and get this. Studies show that men who suffer from erectile dysfunction have less microbial diversity than men without it. Don't worry, if you don't know about microbial diversity, you soon will. And some researchers are even looking into probiotics as a way of treating erectile challenges. How about that? I mean, maybe you don't need that Viagra after all. And you will also learn how a leaky gut can wreak havoc on your sex hormones. And turns out most of us have a leaky gut, leading to a lower libido and might impact your ability to become erect and lubricated. So yeah, it's safe to say your gut health is directly linked to your sexual health and well-being. one last little nugget. Our ability to create a romantic spark, attract a partner, develop as a sexual being, or having just passionate, mind-blowing sex is also linked to our gut. There's so much in this world to break down, and it can be so overwhelming. So I found the perfect person, and I'm thrilled to have Tina Anderson on the show to help us sort through all of this. She is the co-founder and CEO of Just Thrive. It's a groundbreaking family business that was born to help people take back control of their health. She is just a badass woman who's committed to restoring people's wellness. I am so glad you're here, Tina, because like I said, for a few years now, we're hearing all about improving our gut health. Most important thing we can do for our overall health and well-being. That's where I first started hearing about it. I started hearing like my gut. Now I got to focus on my gut. Like, what does that even mean? But now I see the real links to sexual health, which is why I think this conversation is so important. Tina, real quick, I think we just have to start with what is gut health?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm so excited to be here with you, Emily. This is such an honor, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun today. So gut health is basically the totality of microorganisms that are living in and on us. So we've got bacteria, viruses, fungi living on and in us. Most of them are living in our gut microbiome, so in our intestinal tract, our digestive tract. And these little microorganisms we have now know are literally dictating all of our overall health. This is all coming out. It came out about 12 years ago with the Human Microbiome Project that was launched by the National Institutes of Health, told us more about the gut than we ever knew before. And what we're finding is that the gut is really like impacting every aspect of our health. I mean, we always think of like gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, acid reflux. Yes, those are all signs that we have some gut imbalance going on. What the research is telling us and what we're now starting to talk about is that our brain health, like mental health, is associated with our gut health. Skin health, like acne, eczema, diabetes, Alzheimer's. I mean, rheumatoid arthritis and acne are like stemming from the same place. Allergies, all of these different health conditions are actually stemming from an imbalance in our gut.
It's amazing we didn't know this. And you remind me of when I first heard the gut is your second brain. I think that's when I first heard that a few years ago. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's so connected. I mean, it's crazy that we haven't known this. And you said that we have millions of bacteria living in our gut. Are they all bad? Some are good, right? They're good ones, right? So how do we know what's bad, what's good?
Yeah, no, we have trillions of bacteria that are actually really beneficial. In fact, less than 1% of bacteria is actually harmful. We are so like into this antibacterial world, like with antibacterial hand soaps, antibacterial hand sanitizers, household cleaning products that have bleach, all of these things that we're trying to kill off bacteria. But really, bacteria is so beneficial. I mean, it's critical. Babies are being born in this sterile environment, and that's not a good thing. We don't want them to have like disease or like any other pathogenic bacteria, but less than 1% of bacteria is actually harmful. And that's also really hard for people to wrap their head around. We're just like trained to like get rid of bacteria.
Yeah. Right. So we've we've overdone it, right? Because now they're saying that in a way we're too healthy, and that's why kids are getting a lot sicker, and there's so many other problems with hormones and other things in kids.
Absolutely.
Because of this. We've sort of overcorrected.
We've overcorrected, and we're living in this world that is so offensive to our gut health. So if we lived in a tribe in Papua New Guinea or like somewhere out in the middle of nowhere where we're eating off the land, our ancestors were getting these really important bacteria. We were taking care of our gut. There weren't all these offenders. But if anyone living in the Western world is faced with these offenders on a regular basis, so antibiotics being one of them. Antibiotics, not just that we take, but antibiotics that are found in our food supply. So we know antibiotics that we take. People are now starting to know we shouldn't be taking antibiotics all the time because we know they're so disruptive to our gut. I mean, they are like this nuclear bomb going off in your gut. And we know that like when you're killing off your bad bacteria, you're also killing off the good bacteria, the beneficial bacteria. And studies have shown that just a single course of clindamycin will actually wreak havoc in your gut for up to a 2-year period. So, I mean, it's taking a 2-year period to like actually rebuild our gut flora. But antibiotics, like I said, are found in our food supply and animal products. Pesticides that we're faced with, our produce is sprayed with glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, being sprayed all over our produce, and we're consuming that on a regular basis, and that's destroying our gut bacteria. Like I said, all the household cleaning products that we're using. Stress is a huge offender to our gut health. Processed foods. It's this world we're living in is just really disruptive to our gut health, and that's why we're seeing people with so many chronic illnesses. They estimate that 60% of the population has one chronic condition and 40% of the population has two chronic conditions. So we are dealing in this world with this chronic conditions, all these chronic conditions, because we have these imbalances in our gut.
Oh my God. Well, okay. So, but here's the thing about antibiotics, because I loathe when I have to take antibiotic, but sometimes I need to take it. So what do we do if you actually have to take an antibiotic?
Yeah,
because we can't say never take them, right? Or can you?
Of course not. No. And I mean, antibiotics save lives, and I don't discount that. But even the CDC estimates that 50% of antibiotics that are prescribed are actually not necessary. And that's partly due because physicians will just like prescribe them, but it's also due because patients will come in and like, I'm going on a vacation and I have sniffles, and now they want to get an antibiotic just in case. And really what people are just starting to understand, or not really understanding right now, is that when you take an antibiotic, it's killing off your bad bacteria, but it's also killing off your good bacteria. And now remember, 80 to 90% of our immune system is found in our gut. So now the very tool in our body that we need to fight off this virus that we have is actually being compromised by the antibiotic. So I would never, ever recommend being on antibiotic if you have a viral infection. I'm a huge fan of like letting my fever run a little bit high. Like I don't quickly try to get a fever down, or with my kids, I would never do that. I'd let them have their fever run a little bit, because that's your body's way to fight off an infection. But of course, there are times to take an antibiotic.
I want to get into shame and gut issues. So I would call these the pleasure thieves that kill us from having great sex. It is stress, trauma, and shame. Mm-hmm. And those are the three killers of our sex drive, and I would say probably of our overall health and wellness. If we are having a lot of stress and anxiety, we know that's going to impact our sexual health and our overall health. Trauma, any kind of trauma, big T trauma, little t trauma, and shame. And so when I was thinking about like gut health, it's the kind of thing where I dated a guy who had Crohn's for many years. He actually, though, was like a stand-up comedian, and he was pretty up for, he made it all about his Crohn's. So I learned a lot though about it then. But then I feel like when I've been talking about like my experience right now with sort of studying the gut, everyone's coming out of the woodwork. They've got something going on. But then we get a ton of emails from listeners who are like, I'm bloated, or I'm worried about it, or how do I have sex? What do I do? And I think a lot of people with these gut issues are put on heavy medications, right? So I mean, there's so
much,
which
are actually detrimental to your sexual health. That's what's so bad.
I kept telling them that.
So many of these medications are actually wreaking havoc on your gut health and therefore impacting your sexual health. And it's crazy that the doctors are doing this. Yes.
So what should people be doing then? Is it because I remember my boyfriend, he like changed his diet and he was really struggling for like 10, 12 years with it. And I think a lot of it goes back to like childhood stuff too, right? It's all emotional. I think it's emotional and it's physical, biological, a lot of things. But like then, I know you're the shame and then there's secrecy, but what do you think people should do? Or like, I have IBS, I have Crohn's, I'm on a medication. Like, would you ever kind of gently guide them into another direction, or to kind of ask some more questions?
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of what we're doing right now, right? I'm like, I don't, there is a time and place for medication. I mean, I feel like pharmaceuticals are great for like emergency type situations or acute situations. But I think on a regular basis, I would always caution people to avoid being on something for a long term and try to get to the root cause. That's what I think if we could just train ourselves to be like, okay, maybe I need to be on a medication for a while, but why do I have Crohn's? Why do I have whatever it might be, like diabetes? Why do I have allergies? And kind of trying to get to the root cause of it. And mostly it will be stemming in your gut. And I think when you were talking about shame, I mean, that's people who, they are not in the mood because like they feel bloated. They feel like, a lot of people are suffering from bloat right now. I mean, I feel like it's an epidemic. I feel like every woman I talk to is like,
bloated?
Because their guts are inflamed and their guts are so imbalanced. And there's all this, I mean, like I said, this world we're living in, everything we're doing is disruptive.
Give me some more things that are disrupting us. Like even certain vegetable, right? Certain vegetable things that you think are healthy too, right? Like too many.
Well, see, like people will always say like, I can't eat broccoli. Well, I would argue that we should eat broccoli. Like if you can't eat broccoli, that means there's something going on with your gut. So other things like I said, household cleaning products or personal care products, the toxins that we're breathing, the air that we're breathing is so detrimental to our gut. Think about it. Like when I was a kid, which was many, many, many years ago, I knew one classmate that had a peanut allergy. I went to a huge high school from kindergarten all the way through the end of high school, one classmate. Now we know I mean, you can't go to school without a
No, you can't have
peanut-free
peanuts.
table. You can't. It's hard to go to a restaurant without them asking if you have any food allergies. So, I mean, we are living in this, like, and that's an example of having gut imbalance going on or leakiness of the gut.
It wasn't going on.
It was
then.
not going on.
To go back to the shame thing real quick, I just want to say people are suffering from it. I just want to remind you that shame does really permeate so many parts of our sex life, and just to know that we all have something with our gut. And I can even tell you from my experience, and then from talking to so many listeners, that I thought it was just so, I loved how he was so open about it. And he was like, this is what my problem is, and this is what it is. And I just, to me, that was such a turn on, that he knew how to handle it, and he was honest with me. He wasn't trying to hide it. It didn't impact our sex life. So for anyone else out there, any listeners who are like, but I've got this problem and it's keeping me from my sex life, like, just like everything else, I think it's so important to be in a relationship with somebody. If you're in a relationship where you can say, hey, I just want to let you know that I've got some gut things. Sometimes I might make some noises. Sometimes things might happen. But, that's just how it is. I wanted to tell you ahead of time. And I'm telling you that there's something so freaking hot about just calling it and being real, because I want to remind everyone that sex is messy. We make noises. Things come out that we don't want to come out. And like, that's part of it. And if you're with a trusted, loving partner, you won't even blink your eye when these things happen. So I just have to remind it, because I know many people are just sort of stuck in this place of suffering. They're like, well, once I heal my gut, or once I do this thing, then I'll feel better sexually. And I'm just saying that then you just got to find partners who are open to hear your real story and be, authentic and share it. Like the things that we think, we cannot say, I think once we find someone that we can say it to, will set us free.
Yeah.
And there is all this shame around bodily noises too. So this is on TikTok, and someone says to me like, oh, you can't go to the bathroom in front of your partner, or that's the end of your relationship, or you can't talk about it, or girls don't fart. There's a whole thing on TikTok right now where girls are leaving the building and like farting, and they're like, boyfriends catch them. It's like, what word are we? It's like the women who wake up in the middle of the night to put makeup on. Like,
yeah, exactly.
What are you talking about? It's like 2024 people. Like, that's got to be so friggin' stressful that they're living in this, like, I have to be this perfect woman who doesn't make noises and do anything. So I just want to say, embrace who you are.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more.
All of it. So taking a probiotic, can it help with some of that bloating and gas and embarrassment and shame?
Absolutely. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest testimonials we
say,
get.
What do you
is like,
hear? I heard I'm regular. I'm still, but what else?
Yeah. I mean, the regular thing is, because I did not have gut issues or I didn't know I had gut issues when I started the probiotic.
And then revealed, I think.
Yes.
Me, but.
And I that's what I noticed. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so regular. Like my mom and I always talk about that. Like, oh my God, I feel so like cleaned out. You feel so good. And like, think about how much energy you have when you like get rid of the toxins.
You want to get rid of it, but then it's hanging out all day or for 2 days. And now it's just like gone. You're like on to the next thing.
Yeah. People are like, I don't have any problems. I go to the bathroom every other day. And it's like, oh God, that's a problem.
What about the gut effect on mental health? These stats are crazy. Like 80%, 90% of our serotonin is in our gut.
Yes. So 90% of our serotonin is actually produced in our gut. All these important neurotransmitters like GABA, which is our calming hormone, is produced in our gut. Dopamine is produced in our gut. You can't be talking about sexual health if you're not talking about serotonin production. I mean, because if you have too low of serotonin production, you're tired, you get headaches, you've got all kinds of issues when you're depressed, you're sad. But if you have too much serotonin, that also inhibits arousal and all those types of issues. And then you see that with people who are on anti-anxiety meds like SSRIs. They have trouble with, they have trouble with arousal because they have too much serotonin going on. So what the gut does, it's actually, when you have a healthy gut microbiome, it actually is able to produce the serotonin, which is 90% of it's produced in the right amounts, in a balanced amount. So it's really hard for people to wrap their head around that these neurotransmitters, one being serotonin, that 90% of it is produced in our gut, which is our happy hormone. It's our feel-good hormone.
30 years ago now, when I was having like PMS and my doctor was like, you should take an antidepressant, you should take an SSRI like Prozac. We've learned so much more about mental health since then, but we never even talked about the fact, well, what are you eating? What are you putting in your body?
Yep.
Right? They do help with serotonin when you take an antidepressant, but then is it also wriking havoc on your gut? So is it the same kind of thing?
That's what they're showing. The studies are showing that people have a lot of issues with, being in the mood when they're on an SSRI, and they have issues with erectile dysfunction, and they have all those kinds of issues when they are on an SSRI.
So have you found that people are on SSRIs have been able to effectively get off of them using like using diet, nutrition, exercise? I mean, because if it's not working on your gut, it's working on your other parts of your brain. I mean, I know you're not a doctor in this area, but I'm always concerned about it because SSRIs wreak so much havoc on people, especially people who are so, depressed. They don't want sex, but then they take an SSRI. They want to have sex now, but then they can't have an orgasm. It's
right. What I'm seeing, I think psychiatrists have had their hands tied for many years because they have these SSRIs and they're not working. They're not people. I mean, people who have been on SSRIs and they're not feeling better. I mean, there is a small population that does see some impacts positively with an SSRI, but I would argue that, there are so many other things to be doing to help with mood. And number one, most important thing is to be taking care of our gut because there is something called the gut-brain axis, and it's the communication between the gut and the brain. And like I mentioned, all these neurotransmitters are being produced in our gut, like GABA, serotonin, dopamine. And if your gut is not healthy, these signals are being sent up to your brain. And then your brain sends signals down to your gut. And if you think that this makes no sense, just kind of think about it for a second. Like when you get butterflies in your stomach, it's because you're excited about something. There's this two-way communication. So I would always recommend that when somebody is suffering from any type of mental, mood issue or mental health issue, that they focus on their gut, whether it's, eating the right foods, eliminating processed foods, staying away from sugar and alcohol, I've got lots of things that we could do for gut health.
Yeah, but what are the things? The funny thing is that I've heard that, you can tell me to meditate, eat healthy. Yeah, right? Yep. Yes. Yeah. So is that what you would say? There's some main areas to take care of our gut. What would you say?
Yeah. Well, I would definitely say to try to avoid antibiotics as much as possible. And if you do, then if you have to be on one, we could talk about that later. Really try to eat organic. And I know that's hard. And even if you do slow, just try to minimize that amount of exposure and just.
Why I'm convinced, but people are like, it's so expensive. Does it make a difference?
And it is so expensive.
It does make a difference.
But I sympathize with people because it is expensive. And I think you could go to like the frozen section and maybe just start like replacing like some organic berries from the frozen section and then come home and then do, have that. And then, but it's not the end of the world if you're exposed to it, but just try to start eliminating it. But those glyphosates that are found in Roundup are so bad. So with antibiotics.
The ones that are not organic food, you mean?
Right. So with antibiotics, they kill the bad bacteria and the good bacteria like we talked about. So it's good that they kill the bad bacteria. Here's the problem with glyphosate, which is the pesticides that are found in like our produce, is they only target the beneficial bacteria in our gut. So it's actually worse than an antibiotic. So, and yet it's sprayed all over our food supply. And so I'm not saying that we can't all afford it. And I understand that, but I think if we just try to minimize it and just try to eat at home, try to eat whole foods and, just eat on the perimeter of the grocery store, get your, eat your meats and your vegetables and not have a lot of processed foods. Those small baby steps and make a huge difference. Huge
difference. Just to be aware of it. And there are certain things, if you want to look it up, there's some foods that are better than others by organic. Like if you can peel the skin, it's a little less bad. I don't know if that's
absolutely
true.
Like bananas are, But like there's also things like you mentioned, meditation. I mean, people think like that's so woo-woo, like why would I meditate to help my gut? But we now know that if you're stressed out, that's impacting your gut. And I mean, think about when you're nervous about something, what do you have to do? You have to go to the bathroom. Like people of IBS they have twofold the amount of anxiety that people who don't have IBS. And so we know that there is a gut-brain connection. So maybe meditation isn't your thing, but maybe you like to walk in nature or, you like breath work, exactly, whatever it might be, but really trying to calm yourself down, even if it's making huge lifestyle changes. I mean, because we have to start taking care of our mental health and our mood in order to, bring our health to our gut.
Yeah. I'm like, if not now, when? It's kind of like we have so much information now showing that everything that we're doing is just working against us being healthy. So if you can find your form of mindfulness, like for me, I meditate for years, but I like breath work. I like turning on an app for 3 minutes. I just breathe, like, or moving, just making sure you move your body. Now I want to talk real quick about leaky gut because that's one thing that my image of a leaky gut is like there's shit coming out of it. Maybe it's shit or just stuff coming out of it all the time and it's leaky. Like I think that's a confusing term.
Yeah.
But I know that leaky gut is important to understand about like inflammation and all that.
It's really important to understand.
Could you explain how we know? I feel like everyone's got a leaky gut now.
Yes. So we have they do.
Leaky guts everywhere.
They estimate that 80% of the population has a leaky gut and don't know it. They have no symptoms, but it's like this drippy faucet when you have a leaky gut because you have no allergies, let's say, and then all of a sudden you get an allergy and you're like, I don't know where this came from. Well, it's been happening for years. So what a leaky gut is, it's actually just like what it sounds like. You have this intestinal cell wall, and it's a barrier. It's your like intestinal barrier that protects your bloodstream from all these toxins seeping into your bloodstream. We don't want food particles to be seeping into our bloodstream. We don't want LPS. LPS stands for lipopolysaccharide. These are toxins that are normally found in our gut that are not really problematic, but when they seep into our bloodstream, they create inflammation and they wreak havoc on our overall health. And so that inflammatory response that our body, like, so when you have, like, let's say we have kale, we're eating kale or we're eating spinach, all these really healthy, we're eating organic spinach and organic blueberries. We've done all the right things. But if your gut is leaky, food particles can actually seep into your bloodstream. And that, I mean, as healthy as like organic spinach is, it's not healthy when it's in your bloodstream. So when you have a leaky gut, LPS toxins could seep into your bloodstream and your body like starts doing this, having this immune response. And now this is where we have chronic low-grade inflammation. And we know that chronic low-grade inflammation is the cause and the root cause of every disease out there. I mean, from heart disease to cancer to diabetes to Alzheimer's, dementia. I mean, you name it. 90% of non-communicable diseases are actually associated with a leakiness of the gut.
Okay, so is there an easy way to tell if you have a leaky gut?
80% of the population has a leaky gut, and we just should assume that we do. But I mean, if you have allergies, if you have any autoimmune issues, if you have, diarrhea, constipation, all of those things, you
Crohn's, stuff like that, IBS,
absolutely.
That
all
is what
that.
It is.
But I mean, even if you don't, so we did a double-blind human clinical trial on leaky gut. This is the first of its kind double-blind human clinical trial. In that study, they took the University of North Texas took 100 college students. 55% of them had a leaky gut and didn't know it. These are healthy college students. They had no diseases. They weren't on any medication. Nothing was wrong with them. And 55% of these 20-year-olds had a leaky gut and didn't know it. So that's why they're estimating that 80 to 90% of the adult population has a leaky gut and doesn't know it.
How do you test for it?
You know what? There are no commercial tests really available. They're only done in a research setting. The way the University of North Texas tested for it is they measured the LPS toxins, how many went into the bloodstream after they had a meal. So when you eat, you have leakiness in your gut, you could measure the LPS toxins seeping into your bloodstream.
How does gut inflammation or imbalance contribute to libido issues?
Yes, well, inflammation is one.
So yeah, okay.
Inflammation is a huge one.
Can you just kind of explain it, why that's such a problem, and how we're also friggin' inflamed all of a sudden?
Right. Well, because we have a leaky gut, that's why we're inflamed. Inflammation is a protective mechanism of our body. Inflammation is a good thing when we need it, when we sprain an ankle or whatever, we have an injury, it's a protective mechanism. But when you have chronic inflammation, so our body is like having this inflammatory response when we have leaky gut. When that food particle goes into your bloodstream, our body has this inflammatory response to protect us. But when you have that chronic inflammation, this is where disease begins, is that chronic.
Begins with inflammation. But so is there a way to tell if we're inflamed?
I think there are people could definitely, they feel it in their body, they get puffy and different things like that. But I mean, I think some people have it intuitively to know that they're inflamed. And I think you could tell it from blood work. I mean, there's certain blood work, like C-reactive protein or homocysteine will give you measures of your inflammation by doing certain blood work could tell you too.
Okay. So really, it's the underlying cause of so many things. So even like libido, you might not feel as in the mood, as aroused, as turned on because of the food you're eating, a leaky gut. Like you just don't have the same hormones aren't firing. You're just not able to get your brain on board or your body on board with sex because of this inflammation that's probably coming from the environment and the food you eat.
Yes.
And maybe antibiotics.
Yes. And that is definitely one cause of libido issues. The other is the lack of serotonin. And, we know that serotonin is directly impacts your libido. I mean, and it makes so much sense because, I mean, if we're stressed out or we're depressed, you're not in the mood. I mean, so it's like all of these factors, but it's our serotonin is directly impacting our libido. And remember, our serotonin is being produced in our gut. This
is like imperative. We have to all get on top of this. This is why like the alarm bells are going off. But what I love is that you're so passionate and you love helping people and you've done the science, you've done the research, and your company that you developed, Just Thrive, was really all based on this. Your mission is to share science and vetted information that helps other people move forward and to basically empower everyone all over the world to take care of their health, live their best lives. So what first inspired you to do this? Did you always have this passion, or was there like something that happened? Usually like something, was there a catalyst in your life that you were like, holy shit, we need to get this out there?
Yes. We were in the pharmaceutical industry. So my husband and I were in the pharmaceutical industry, and I thought it was great. I thought we're delivering life-saving medications to people, and this is awesome. And it was wonderful. And then after being in the industry for a while, we started to see a lot of the abuses, the overprescribing of medications. The thing that bothered me the most was just that, doctors and pharma, they are only looking at treating symptoms. There's never a discussion about like prevention of health or maintaining your health. My husband was seeing a naturopathic physician, and they both have been talking about wanting to get into more of the natural health space. And one day he called Billy up and said, oh my God, you and Tina need to come to my office right now because I just got the opportunity to license these incredible strains out of London University. And so that was where Just Thrive was born. It was
these
literally
strains.
Yes, these really unique strains of probiotics. So for many years, there have been these conventional probiotics on the market that are made up of lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. We were able to license these really unique strains through London University from Dr. Simon Cutting, like world-renowned probiotic expert and researcher. And they are called spore-based probiotics. And they're a very different type of probiotic strain. And we were disruptors when we came to the market. It was a really uphill battle, but I would never look back. It was the most gratifying career journey I've ever been on. And just empowering people. That is one of the core values of our company, is empowering people. They need to be the CEOs of their own health.
After a quick break, we'll be back with more with Tina from Just Thrive. Well, I think it's so interesting you said that your husband went to a functional medicine doctor, which I think functional medicine is certainly an area of interest for many people. It's not always accessible, unfortunately. Right. But what I love about it and what I think that you're doing is that you're focusing way more on the prevention than the treatment. So our medical system is all about like curing a disease or treating something that's already happened. But you're about like creating the lifestyle, preventing it so we don't get sick. So Absolutely. We can have longevity in our life, right?
Yes. It's hard because people don't have access to naturopathic physicians and functional medicine doctors. You pay cash. I mean, I pay cash for my doctor's appointment every time I go. And, not everybody could do that. And that's why I think I'm so passionate about like when we do blogs on our website, we do so much research. We hire some of the best researchers out there to like get the information so that people could empower themselves. And it's just really important. And whatever, listening to podcasts like yours and just understanding how health impacts so much of our life, and you need to take control of it.
Yeah, we do. I love that. It's like become the CEO of your own medical health. I always say become like the CEO of your own sex life. Like you guys got to figure it out because it's so different. It's so bio-individual. Like we're just giving in on this show. I try to give people, like I'm not prescriptive. I'm not telling you guys to go out and do any one thing. I'm just trying to give you the information so you can make better choices for your overall health and wellness. I'm always talking about on the show, like one of my pillars of sexual health and sex IQ that I wrote about was the 5 pillars of sexual health, of sex IQ. And the first one is embodiment. How in your body are you when you want to be sexual? Are you thinking about what you're feeling? Are you feeling your partner's hands on your body? Or are you in your head thinking about the laundry? Are the kids listening? Am I fantasizing about my ex? All those are okay and they're natural. Embodiment is a practice. I work on it. I see a somatic therapist. I meditate every day. I try. That's to be in touch with my body. So when we first met, you sent me some of the probiotics because I've just been like so curious about it when I heard like it can help with erectile dysfunction and it can help you with your mood and all the things. So I started taking them a month ago. And at first I was like, I don't know. I can't tell. It's fine. And then I realized about not that soon and maybe less than a week that I was a lot more regular. And I didn't realize, this is me not being embodied, that I wasn't that regular. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that it was more of a struggle But now like I wake up, I go to bed, I go. Like I feel so, it's so freeing.
Yes.
It's so easy.
Yes.
And I don't even have to think about it. And so that's been my experience with probiotics. But I'm wondering, in your experience, like I know that there's so many different things with probiotics. So I'm wondering if you could tell us like why is everyone recommending them? Tell me about Just Thrive and stuff in your probiotics, which I know are special because of the spores.
Probiotics are the friendly bacteria and we want them to, in order to be defined as a probiotic, it's a live microorganism that confers a benefit onto the host, which is the body. And we need them to be live when they're in the intestines. And so the biggest thing is that we need a probiotic that arrives alive in the intestines. So we work with a type of probiotics that's called spores, like you mentioned. And the biggest difference is they have this endospore shell around themselves. And that shell allows them to survive the stomach acid and get into the intestines alive. And so the biggest problem with the overwhelming majority of probiotics on the market is that they die in the stomach acid. So the stomach acid is meant to be the gastric barrier. It's very acidic. If our fingers touch the acid in our stomach, it would burn our fingers. So it's there to protect us. It gets all the things from our food that we don't want. But for probiotic, we do want our probiotics to survive because in order to just be defined as a probiotic, it needs to arrive alive in the intestines. And so that's the difference between the spores and the conventional probiotics that you find.
They don't
pretty much
arrive
everywhere.
alive. And like I bought the ones that you had to put in the refrigerator, and I was like, but I'll never remember to take them because they're in the refrigerator.
Yeah, that's actually one of the biggest myths I always talk about.
Yeah,
is that if a
they don't have to be in the refrigerator.
No,
why do they tell you
Well,
that?
To be a live microorganism, they thought, they need to be alive in the refrigerator. And so they're alive. Let's say they were alive. Let's just let's pretend like they made it from the manufacturing facility on the truck to the grocery store and they were live microorganism. When you took them home and you put them in your mouth, your body temperature is 98.6, right? Well, they can't even withstand the room temperature of the store shelf, which is, much cooler than your body temperature of 98.6. So the majority of those probiotics would die just from the temperature of your body, but much less when they start making their way to the intestines, they would hit the stomach and all that acidic environment in the stomach would kill off the probiotic. And then you're basically getting dead bacteria. Now there's an argument to be made that even dead bacteria may give you some symptomatic relief, but it's not making a true change in the gut. It's not going in there and fixing what's going on in the gut. And so, and the spores, those are the strains that we work with. And these are the same type of strains our ancestors got from the environment. Like they would eat roots and tubers off the land. They would get the bacteria, was teeming with this good bacteria. They have this endospore shell around itself. And this is not because we've engineered them. This is like a natural way to get these spores. And you swallow them. They have that shell around themselves while they get through that gastric system. And when they hit your intestines, they recognize your intestines as its home. And then they take the shell off. And that's when they go into their live vegetative cell state. And then they stay there for about 21 to 28 days where they're working from the small intestine all the way down to the distal colon. So it's like, I get so excited about it because it's like, this is why they work. I can
picture it now, like going into my stomach. Now, like I'm just taking it, but now I can picture it going down there, opening up.
Yes.
Fertilizing my bacteria, like being in my gut. Like that sounds like I can actually feel it now. I'm having a very embodied experience about taking the probiotic right now.
Yeah. And that, like you said that about fertilizer, it's so funny because like I love to use that analogy. Like when you envision a garden that's been stepped on and trampled on and there's weeds growing all over that garden, you kind of compare that to your gut, your intestines. And these probiotic strains actually go into that garden. They get there 100% alive. They attach to the dirt or the intestinal cell wall. And then they have the ability to get rid of the weeds in the garden or the bad bacteria in your gut. And then they have the ability to take those plants that have been stepped on and trampled on and have them come back to life. So they're going in and they're like the gardener of the gut. They go in there and they're literally like getting rid of the pathogenic bacteria, helping get rid of the pathogenic bacteria, help bring our good bacteria back to life.
Okay. Can everyone take probiotics? Are they suitable for everybody? Do you think?
Yeah. So with the spore-based probiotic, I can't imagine anybody that would not be able to take it. I think it's hard to find anybody that would not benefit from it because like I said, we're being assaulted. Our gut is being assaulted on a daily basis. And yet it's dictating virtually all of our health. I mean, it is, if you go to Google and you say like gut health and, brain health, gut health and skin health, gut health and rheumatoid arthritis, gut health and sexual health. I mean, there is going to be a study on it because your gut is responsible with everything that you're talking about when you talk about your health. So And the reason why it is new information, and it's not a fad though. I mean, this is like, we are at the like.
It's not like kale. It's not like the kale of medical diagnosis.
No, not at all. And we're like at the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there is more and more research. I think there's going to be a time where people are on several different probiotics. I mean, because we know how instrumental they are in healing. I mean, we have our main probiotic, our spore-based probiotic that is foundational, and we could go into all why that's so foundational, but we work with another probiotic strain called Bifidolongum 1714 that's actually shown to bring down cortisol levels, and that's our Just Calm product because we know that our cortisol, we're all like have way too much cortisol right now because we're all stressed out and we're always in that fight or flight response. So there, I could see a day where we're taking 5-10 different types of probiotic strains because we know how it's impacting our health. Our guts are impacting our health.
I tried that one as well because here's why I was also very interested in getting to know you, because this is a part of a journey that I have a graveyard of supplements. I might show them to you in my kitchen. And I've seen different doctors that were like, you have to take magnesium and then you have to take fish oil and then you have to take B or D, but it was always a probiotic. Those were the consistent ones. And then I got overwhelming taking them every day. I don't want to take them every day. But then it just sounds like the main thing that everyone agreed on was that probiotic, which again, up until recently, I would only take them if I took antibiotics. So this is just like kind of blowing my mind that it is so linked to so much of our overall and our sexual health.
Yeah, when you're talking about these different vitamins that we're taking. So when our gut is inflamed, it's not absorbing nutrients. Okay. So here where all these people are taking, everyone takes a multivitamin without even thinking about it. Or they take vitamin D. Everyone knows we need to be taking vitamin D and we need to be taking vitamin C, especially after the pandemic. Everybody's taking all these vitamins, which I'm so happy about. But there's no point in taking them if our gut is not absorbing them and if our gut is inflamed. So that's why it's foundational to be taking care of your gut and being on a high quality probiotic, because you're not absorbing the nutrients if your gut is inflamed or imbalanced at all. And that's what I think I want to just, stress to people is that, you take all these supplements and it's great and eat healthy, but we need to make sure that we first and foremost take care of our gut.
So if my gut is inflamed, I'm taking all these antibiotics but my gut's inflamed, they won't be able to absorb the nutrients. So it's just a waste.
Right.
A waste of time, waste of money.
Yeah, if our gut is inflamed.
Right. But you told me most people's guts are inflamed.
Yeah, right.
And then we have no way of knowing if it's inflamed. Right?
And most of us have leaky gut, right? But it's our gut's job to assimilate these nutrients. And that's really important for people to understand.
God, it's a lot.
But no, there's good. It's good news. No, you know what the good news?
It is good news.
It is.
It makes it easier now.
We could heal our guts. I mean, we can heal our gut. That's the beautiful part.
What have you heard from people about their sexual health? Because we know that it's related to libido, erectile dysfunction. I've heard from several urologists now that tell their patients to take probiotics, as I mentioned earlier. What have you seen from that? What have you heard from people?
I have actually a girlfriend who said, oh my God, your product saved my marriage, because she had no energy. I mean, it's like she literally was always tired, didn't have the energy. And so it just, when you start going to the bathroom regularly, when you get rid of those toxins on a regular basis, I mean, it's your gut dictating all of that. And your hormones are metabolized in your gut. So we need to know that when we have people who have estrogen dominance, for example, it's our gut that's detoxing over production of certain hormones. I don't even know where to start, because it's mood and what kind of mood you're in is affecting, your gut is affecting that.
So by taking that, but also, our hormones are regulated. This will also help with our production of our hormones, right?
Yes.
By we take the probiotic first.
People would want to maybe avoid HRT until the time that they maybe need it, but I would say that you could prolong that time in your life by your gut is regulating your hormones. So that's why we need to be taking care of our gut.
Well, how do we know if it's a hormone issue or a gut issue?
In what respect?
Well, let's say my libido, or I have night sweats, or I have erectile dysfunction, or if I'm going through perimenopause, because it sounds like there's not conclusive tests right now, and you can't really tell through blood work. And then you said that a lot of people have leaky gut. So how do we know what to do? Because I'm always I'm a huge fan of HRT if you need it, hormone replacement therapy, especially if you're perimenopause, menopause as you get older. But then we know that now that some kids are being born with really low testosterone too, men, young boys. So I just feel like, how do we piece this all apart? Like, how do we know which is which?
Well, any hormone expert that you talk to will tell you, you start with your gut. I mean, every single one that I follow and that I, different doctors that I've spoken to are always like, you need to focus on your gut health. I mean, even you could be on HRT and it may help, certain like things like vaginal dryness or like hot flashes, but you need to be taking care of your gut simultaneously because it's still where your hormones are being regulated. So it's probably a combination of things. You could be on spores all you want, but I mean, once you hit menopause, you're not going to be able to produce estrogen and progesterone.
Which food should we eat for healthier gut? Which ones should we avoid? Just to start there.
That's an awesome question because I mean, there's so much we could do that's free with our gut. And one of the big things is eating a diverse group of foods. So we live in this world where it's like, I'm keto, I'm paleo, I'm vegan. Everyone's got these restrictive eating diets right now. And you go to the grocery store, find a different vegetable you haven't eaten before and like try that and really mix up a lot of your vegetables or even meat products and just try to eat a diverse group of foods. And that is going to contribute to diversity. We know that when we have a diverse microbiome, we have health. And when we have health, we have better sexual health. And so it's really important that we're eating a diverse group of foods and, staying away from processed foods, staying away from, sugar, alcohol, all those things. I mean, gluten is unfortunately a huge offender to leaky gut. People will say like, I don't have any gluten tolerances, which I'm one of those people. I don't have any gluten intolerances, but we actually all have a gluten intolerance because
I've learned this. Oh,
yeah, it attacks our gut lining. So, we want to avoid certain foods that are loaded with antibiotics. We want to avoid processed foods that have all those chemicals in there. But there are a lot of those things will help also.
Okay. And what can we eat? What are the things, like also eating, what about eating like sauerkraut and like fermented foods?
So
that stuff helps too,
yes,
right?
Sauerkraut, fermented foods are really, really nutrient dense. They're really great for your gut. They are not a replacement for a probiotic because just like those probiotics out there that arrive dead, like fermented foods are super beneficial, but the probiotics in them will actually die in the stomach acid. But that doesn't mean that all of the ferment and all of like the nutrients that come with fermented foods, they are really important for your gut health. So I would never say like, oh, don't eat fermented foods. Like you don't have to eat them. I eat them all the time and I think they're hugely beneficial. They're just not a replacement for a probiotic.
Okay. Cause like I used to love kombucha. I drank it like every day, but then someone's like, it has a lot of sugar in it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh no.
Well, that is one of the big, like people will eat yogurt all the time and they're like, oh, I ate yogurt. It's so good for my gut. Well, the effects of the sugar are, negating all of the benefits of the yogurt.
So let's say we take a probiotic because I'm committed now. I'm like, this is what I haven't done this before. This is what I'm going to do. But does that mean that everything else is fixed or it's just a great place to start by taking a probiotic?
Well, it's one place to start. It's a very powerful tool in your toolbox. Like we said, eating better and cleaner, just taking baby steps. I don't expect people to like make huge shifts, just taking baby steps. Also like finding some type of mindful practice, doing things that will calm you down, even if it's major lifestyle changes, but you have got to be taking care of your gut. And then, of course, the spore-based probiotic, it just works so powerfully. And it's been so much fun to see like what people are feeling like. And like I said, in the pharmaceutical world, it's like side effects are like suicidal thoughts or bloody stools, all these horrible things. And it's like with our product, so many people come to it because they have gas or bloating or constipation or they just want to be healthy. They just want to take it like they take a multivitamin. And then they all of a sudden say, oh my gosh, I have more energy or I have better weight management. I mean, we see this all the time because our gut bacteria is determining how you metabolize your food. And if you're one of those people that like could look at a cupcake and gain 10 pounds or one of those people that could eat a cupcake and not gain 10 pounds. So it's like people see better weight management. They see better mood, better sleep. That's a huge response we get from a lot of customers is just getting better sleep because when your gut is calm, it's like the magic starts to happen. And that's why I always tell people, like people will like maybe start it and they'll be like, oh, I'm going to be on it. And it's not like an over the counter that where you're going to feel it right away. Some people do. Some people will feel it immediately, but I always say like stay on it for 90 days and then you start to see the magic happen. That's when you start to notice the energy. That's when you start to notice all of these other really exciting things happen.
So we hear a lot about UTIs. There's all these, first of all, some women have repeated urinary tract infections or yeast infections. Then as women head into perimenopause, menopause, they have even more UTIs. And it says like there's a lot of reasons for it, but I'm wondering what you think about probiotics, our sexual health, yeast infections. Millions of women suffer from these infections. Like, what do you think about taking something for that?
Yeah, well, it's our gut microbiome that's dictating our vaginal microbiome. It really is. And so we need to be taking care of our gut to take care of our vaginal microbiome. We also know that yeast and candida is like a natural part of our gut flora. It's when you have that overgrowth of yeast where you start to see the problems. And that's what's exciting about the spores, is that they actually, I always say, like, elbow out the overgrowth of the yeast or the candida that's going on. And the problem is, with people are getting these yeast infections or UTIs, what's the first thing that they do? Especially with UTIs, they go on an antibiotic.
That's the thing. They go on an antibiotic, and I'm like, oh, this is not. Yeah, I don't want to do that anymore.
No, you don't want to do that. So I think taking care of your gut flora is super important. We actually have a UT product that it's called UT123 that is really, really great for. It's a fast acting, but I cannot stress enough that we need to be taking care of our gut when we're talking about vaginal health, UTIs, when we're talking about yeast infections, BV, all of that stuff.
Okay, we have some questions here that I would love you to help me answer. We got some from Instagram and we've got some from our listeners. Let's just whip out the Instagram. Does a healthier gut increase your chance of orgasm?
Well, absolutely. Because if you think about it, what helps you get an orgasm? It's basically being in the right mood and feeling good, and it's your serotonin. And so it's our serotonin, and that's being produced in our gut. So absolutely.
So someone else wants to know, how does it affect?
It's the same mechanism of the serotonin production, and also the lack of inflammation. When you start getting rid of that inflammatory response, when your gut is healthy and you don't have that inflammatory response, that's really going to help your libido as well. And we know that inflammation is affecting testosterone levels. We know, so it's like we have got to be taking care of our testosterone, and that is, so much of that is caused by leakiness of the gut.
What supplements do you recommend for a healthy gut?
I feel passionately about our Just Thrive spore-based probiotic. That is foundational. Before you do any other supplements or anything else that we carry, I would focus on the probiotic, the spore-based probiotic, because it is literally going in there and that being that gardener of the gut and helping that balance. Your gut is an ecosystem. It's not that we want to get rid of all the bad bacteria. We just want a healthy balance, right? And we want the good bacteria to outweigh the bad bacteria. And that's what's so cool about the spores, is their ability to do that. And we talked earlier about antibiotics. This is a really important point. So you are right that most of the time they tell people, get off of your probiotic when you're on an antibiotic. It is different with the spores. Here's why. The spores have the ability, you know how they have that spore around themselves, that they're able to survive the gastric system? Well, they are also able, that spore shell allows them to survive the presence of an antibiotic. So they will work at the same time as with an antibiotic. So I would highly recommend that if you're taking an antibiotic, that you take a spore-based probiotic like Just Thrive, because it has the ability to survive the presence of an antibiotic.
Is that really what all you have to, not all you have to do, but like change your diet and all that, but by taking one of these, you're on the road to recovery?
You're on a really, really powerful road to recovery. You are like going in there and it's not a quick fix. Anything that's worthwhile and long-term is not a quick fix. But like I said,
everyone wants a quick fix.
I know, but you will see the magic start to happen. When you start, because it's like all these other things start happening when you start to heal your gut. It's really exciting.
This is why I'm so glad you were like the right person, because I was like, that's the one area I just hadn't. I'm healthy, I do all the things, but I need to understand this because I see how imperative it is for our overall health, but also to help prevent diseases later in life.
Yes,
exactly. So it's really important. Okay, so this is a listener question. Hello, Dr. Emily. I'm a 50-something woman, a vulva owner, and I love listening to your show. I'm recently divorced, and your show is a great source of insight as I'm navigating new relationships. For my whole life, every time I receive oral, I end up with a UTI. Different partners, I have good hygiene, and I follow all the best practices like urinating after sex. And still, every single time, it's a huge bummer to what should be a hot, sexy, pleasurable experience. It's difficult for me to get excited about knowing the aftermath I'll have to deal with. Is there anything I can do so I don't end up with a UTI? So there's a lot of different theories about this, like recurrent UTIs, they say may be caused by the reinfection of the same pathogen. It could be something in your DNA. It could be genetic. It could be a lack of estrogen if you're in perimenopause or menopause, make the lining of your urinary tract more susceptible to harmful bacteria. as there's less good bacteria to fight off an infection. I've like tons of research on this. Like it's really not known why some people get them more than others, except for the few things that I just mentioned. I think that sucks to hear. I'm sorry that that happened. I'm sorry that that is like your life, Amy, because there are those things that say like, go to the bathroom after sex, make sure you're clean, don't wear tight underwear. But there's just some people, I guess, who have one of these challenges. But what would you say about this? Is there anything, have you heard about people who have taken some of your probiotics, but they continue to get it? Or what have you heard about UTIs?
Yeah, I would always encourage somebody that has recurrent UTIs to take care of their gut. And so, of course, the best way to do that by taking the spore-based probiotic. But then also we do have a urinary tract health product that is, we call it, it's fast acting, and it actually attaches to the E. coli, because E. coli is the main bacteria that is like the root cause of urinary tract issues. And so we have a product that actually attaches to the E. coli and is more fast acting. So in that case, I would say if you're prone to them, just to start taking it on a regular basis. And we've seen a lot of success with that.
Have you? So you're saying that she could start taking this on a daily basis, and she might see that all these other doctors' theories about genetics and all these genetic subtypes could just be that her gut hasn't been healthy. Maybe that's also genetic, but if she takes something every day preventative, she might not have to.
Yeah. So you remember, the gut microbiome is dictating the vaginal microbiome. So we want to be first and foremost taking care of our gut. But then we have this urinary tract product that actually will help support our urinary tract for those times. And we know that we would take it for about the studies on it are like for 6 months, they were on some of these ingredients and they saw marked improvement in that.
Okay. I feel like I want to send her some.
Oh, yeah.
Can we send her some?
Absolutely. I would love to.
I feel like she's been suffering her whole life.
Oh my
Amy
gosh,
in Virginia,
I would love to.
50-something woman.
Yeah.
Let's send her some and
I
just
would
see how
love
it goes.
to.
Okay. We're going to send you some, Amy, and I hope this can help you because I want her to be having great sex.
I want her to get both. But the probiotic and the UT.
Okay, we're going to send you some, okay?
Yes.
Because we want you to have sex without the worry.
Yes, absolutely.
I know.
I mean, that creates a whole new worry.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Whenever we're worried about all this stuff, then we can't, this is the stress about sex that we can't get into our bodies. Okay, so here's another one. Dear Emily, I'm a young man in his early 30s, and due to my gut issues, I have a lot of anxiety around receiving anal. How can I best prepare to be clean and manage my stress and anxiety about butt stuff? All the best, Alex in Arizona. Well, first, I can tell you what I always say about butt stuff is that there's a lot of people who are worried about, like, how do I know I'm not going to, have an explosion all over the place? So I think that we all know. We can all recognize our bowels. Like we know when it's full and when we can empty it, I hope. We also know when certain foods might trigger it. So like I'm not going to go out for a big meal, let's say the night before or the day of, if I'm going to have anal sex. So I feel like first that's sort of a knowing ourselves thing, like know which food are your triggers. Is it meat? Is it dairy? Is it, fried foods? Avoid all of those things because then these starts having gut issues, but also like be with a trusting partner. You want to make sure that you go slow, that you're warmed up, that you use a lot of lube. Like all those things are really, really important. But again, when I just hear him saying gut issues in the past, I wouldn't really have known. But when he says that now, it sounds like he's got gut issues. And then that it can also, be explosive, literally, because he doesn't know how to handle it. So I think it is knowing the food you're eating, knowing your triggers. But what else, is there anything here that you would add to that?
Well, I think it would be the same thing about taking care of our gut because we know when you become regular, I mean, that's what's so exciting when you start to heal your gut is that you start to become regular. So there won't be any surprises or very few surprises. You'll know when you're going to the bathroom for the most part. You become so regular and so that could be a solution.
And his anxiety around it is also not helping his gut issues.
Well, absolutely. Yes.
Come on, you guys, it's all related. If we're worried, it's in our gut.
Yes.
Where would you feel anxiety?
Yeah, exactly. And then your gut is sending those signals to the brain through the vagus nerve. It's all a vicious cycle.
All related.
It really is.
That's why the breathing and the relation and seeing that it's all related. And if you could do anything you can to calm yourself before any sexual activity, before a date, taking a few deep breaths, moving your breath through your body. Well, you're doing incredible work. That's why I was so excited to talk to you. I think this is really going to impact so many people's lives, but their overall health and wellness and their sexual health. I can't wait to see what happens. Thank you for being here, Tina.
Oh my gosh,
from
thanks
Just
for
Thrive.
having me. I'm so excited.
This has been so fun. I'm going to ask you the 5 quickie questions we ask all of our guests.
Okay.
No overthinking, just the first thing that comes to your mind.
Oh boy. Okay.
You ready?
Okay.
Your biggest turn on.
My husband's smile and like how much he loves me.
Biggest turn off.
Negativity.
What makes good sex?
Connection.
Something you would tell your younger self about sex and relationships.
That is really healthy for you.
What's the number one thing you wish everyone knew about sex?
That your gut is also dictating your sexual health.
I want everyone to know that too. Thank you so much. Okay, so Tina, where can everyone find you and all the great work you're doing?
Oh, the best place is at our website at justthrivehealth.com. And I think we actually have a coupon code for your listeners, which is Sex with Emily for 20% off the 90-day. So, I'm so passionate about the 90-day, staying on it. And so we have the 20% off. I usually only do like 15% off, but I'm like, we're going to do 20 for the 90-day because we really encourage people to stay on it for the 90 days.
Okay. I'm in it. I'm like a month in, but I want everyone to, if you can, try this out. And I want to know, because I want to do my own research, like, is it impacting your life, your sexual health, like all the things we've talked about. So thank you. That's very generous.
You bet. Thank you so much. It's been fun.
Thank you for being here. This is fun. That's it for today's episode. See you on Tuesday. Thanks for listening to Sex with Emily. Be sure to like, subscribe, and give us a review wherever you listen to the podcast, and share this with a friend or partner. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Sex with Emily. Oh, I've been told I give really good email. So sign up at sexwithemily.com. And while you're there, check out my free guides and articles for more ways to prioritize your pleasure. If you'd like to ask me about your sex life, dating, or relationships, call my hotline, 559-TALK-SEX. That's 559-825-5739. Or go to sexwithemily.com/askemily. Was it good for you? Email me, feedback@sexwithemily.com.